Oklahoma dominating number 7 Alabama 24-3. Dawn, we did not preview this game because we almost did. We actually, I think in the review show last week, we were like, oh, well, we will preview it.
We thought about it, and then we took it out. We were like, no, we got to do A&M Auburn, and now it was like
we were right for that one as well because that was insane.
Absolutely, but no, I mean this, and the way it went down, this may have been the shocker of all shockers.
So before we get into the grades and all that, I just want to go over a couple stats that Nicole Auerbach, we love, tweeted out. She said, 1, Oklahoma first win over an FBS team since September. They have not beaten, forget SEC, forget Power 4. They have not beaten an FBS team since September, and their first one since that is Alabama. Some other really interesting stats, Dalton, right? Fewest points for Alabama in a game, 3 points, since 2004. In that game in 2004, they lost to South Carolina 20-3. South Carolina's coach in that game was Lou Holtz. So their fewest points in a game since Lou Holtz was on the sidelines against them. Also, Dalton, this is Alabama's largest regular season loss since 2003 when they lost by 24 to LSU. And you know who the coach for LSU was?
I have a feeling.
Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Nick Saban, the coach of LSU, before he went to Alabama. This is historic stuff here, and not in a good way for Alabama. Let's go into the great, actually one more stat. The one good silver lining for Alabama, they have now made $300,000 because Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and Oklahoma stormed the field on them. And, of course, in the SEC, you get $100,000 every time your opponent storms the field. So Alabama's silver lining, you got some money in the bank now.
I am sure they would pay all of it back for the wins because $300,000 at a school like that is spare change, honestly. Yeah. But, no, I mean, that's this, especially as convincing as it was, really throws a wrench in what Alabama's trying to do this season.
Absolutely. Let's go over the grades, and we'll get into, obviously, all the numbers that went into this shocking result on Saturday. Starting off with Oklahoma, linebacker Kip Lewis with an 86 grade, tight end Jake Roberts, 77.3, safety Billy Bowman Jr., 75.8, running back Xavier Robinson, 74.3, cornerback Eli Bowen, 72.2, and quarterback Jackson Arnold with a 69.2 grade. Let's go over to Alabama with their highest graded players. Defensive tackle Tim Smith, 79.1. Malachi Moore, the safety, 73.4. Qua Rousseau, the edge defender, 72.6. Tim Keenan III, also 72.6. Devontae Smith, the cornerback, 70.7. Not the Philadelphia Eagle and former Alabama Heisman Trophy winner Devontae Smith, the wide receiver. The cornerback Devontae Smith, 70.7. And Jalen Moreau with a 67.3 grade. We'll get into that Jalen Moreau number in just a second because I think there's more that goes into that number. I mean, you might be saying, wow, that's high for a team that only scored 3 points, and you thought Milroe played pretty bad. We'll get into a little bit more of that. But, Dawn, what was the stat that told the story for you in this game?
Okay, so Oklahoma decided that they were going to beat Alabama the way that Alabama beat LSU. Okay, and they were just going to run and stop the run, and they were going to live and die with whatever happened from there. If Milroe pulled something off, if they just, as long as they didn't turn the ball over, they weren't going to give Alabama anything. Oklahoma had 255 rushing yards in this game. 2 touchdowns, 3.85 yards after contact per attempt, and 8 explosive runs. They were running hard, even when sometimes their offensive line didn't look great against the tough Alabama D-line. They made it happen between Xavier Robinson, the true freshman tailback, and Jackson Arnold, apparently now is a battering ram.
Yeah.
As opposed to, I think this is a second straight game he threw for under 70 yards. They were in the Missouri game, could have won it minus his fumble, and now they've beaten Alabama. Alabama, 77 yards rushing, 2.7 per carry. 1 explosive run that went for 11 yards. Jalen Milroe, 14 carries, 14 yards. They essentially said, we're going to make anything other than Jalen Milroe's feet beat us. We're going to make him hand the ball off to Justice Haynes and Jam Miller, and we're not afraid of them. And we're going to make him throw the ball because we're not afraid of him throwing the ball. And this was the result, was Alabama only scoring 3 points. Milroe's feet are the most dynamic part of this offense. If you contain that and you make tackles, because Oklahoma, they only missed 4 tackles the entire night, rushing, receiving, wherever. They only missed 4 tackles all night. And all year, you know what? This was an underrated aspect of this game. Not just, obviously, Oklahoma running and killing the clock and just keeping things moving. Their run defense all year, who's been the number 1 team in run defense grade? It's been Ole Miss all season. With this game now, as consistent as they've been in run defense, like the one thing Oklahoma's had every single week, Oklahoma now leads the nation in run defense.
Wow.
They gave up 77 yards in this game. They lead the nation in run defense grade. They more than tripled Alabama's rushing total, and they controlled the game from start to finish.
Yeah, really. And you said it, Dalton. Alabama's best part of their offense is Milroe's legs, and because their passing game comes and goes, and it was not there on Saturday, they had negative .562 EPA per pass. That's the worst for Alabama in any game in the PFF college era, which goes all the way back to 2014, so the last decade of college football. So the Jalen Milroe grade, 67.3, does not look probably as bad as you might think it should have been, right? But I want to go into some reasons why. He wasn't good. There's no denying that. He was not very good yesterday, but he also never really had a chance either because the play calling, Dawn, was suspect at best. Alabama's receivers had 4 drops in this game, so critical drops as well. A 58.3 pass blocking grade as a team as well. The Oklahoma pass rushers did a great job getting to Jalen Milroe. And of his 3 interceptions, only one of them, I would say, was his fault. One of them was a screen to Ryan Williams. Kobe Prentice completely missed the block and allowed his man to pick it off. Another one was a 6-man rush on a 4th and 10 where Josh Cuevas was demolished by R. Mason Thomas and Milroe was hit and this kind of threw a duck in the air, and it wasn't really his fault, obviously. And another thing, too, he had a 36-yard touchdown to Ryan Williams, a beautiful, beautiful ball, called back for, let's just say, a very questionable penalty. I don't know what the referee was calling there. It was hard to see because it was a very wide angle that we're seeing. I don't know what he saw, but it didn't look like a penalty to me.
They essentially called an illegal formation and said Williams was ineligible, which when you go back and look at it, didn't look like the case.
Yeah.
I don't know, unless the only thing is receivers, they teach them this since they're kids, is check in with the ref. And I forget who it was that was outside of Williams there in the formation, but maybe he didn't check in and some assumptions were made. But I'm pretty sure that's essentially what it was, is you had an illegal formation. Williams was ineligible. They couldn't throw the flag till he touched the football because they called illegal touching. Like the same way if an offensive lineman intentionally touches a football like that, that's basically what went down there. So they essentially called an illegal formation. I think some of the tape review is going to be like, what is the problem here? But and there's certainly a lot of controversy over it because it's a play maybe with a sliver of hope that could have got Bama back in the game. It was on a 4th down also.
Yeah, it would be 24-10 at that point.
Yeah, and you go, okay, maybe there's a microscopic hope here. But
they wouldn't have won.
It pretty much just embodies the night that Alabama had, didn't it?
And they wouldn't have won, obviously. And again, I want to go into, listen, Oklahoma, I'm not saying that, Oklahoma got lucky in this game. They dominated. And the fact that negative .562 EPA per pass, like I said, the worst for Alabama ever, at least in our grading system, that also, it says a lot when Milroe still grades out at an okay level. That means Oklahoma shut down everything else, right? The offensive line, they were killing the offensive line. They were shutting down the receivers as well. Milroe did not do anything on the ground either. Milroe could not get anything going through the air either. Oklahoma, just Brent Venables, credit to him and credit to his defense, man, because they shut down in every aspect of Alabama's passing game and this one, the run game as well. So credit to them, man, because that number, that EPA per play number, that usually points to a horrible game by a quarterback, and the fact that Milroe didn't play horribly out there says a lot by how good Oklahoma's defense was.
I think you could argue this was the best game that Brent Venables has coached since he's been their head coach. This was just an incredible effort, especially defensively. When you're playing that team and you only miss 4 tackles all night, that's something that doesn't just happen. That gets talked about all week, and Oklahoma's a great tackling team anyway. They're a great defense anyway, but that's something that gets talked about all week is, listen, guys, go out there and play hard. Don't miss tackles. If we make tackles, especially on Milroe, we got a shot in this game, and they did it to absolute perfection. Just an incredible job of the game plan they put together on both sides of the ball. And you said Oklahoma's defense, they've been really good all year. They've had a couple of times where, honestly, their offense has just put them in bad spots. It's been putting them in bad spots. But the one time where they didn't put them in bad spots, look what they can do. I mean, it's a really talented defense, and Alabama, I mean, there was part of it, too, where they looked like they didn't come prepared.
Yeah,
for Oklahoma to come in and play this hard.
Definitely. I just want to go into my most impressive because you talked about it already, but the Oklahoma run D, I want to go into just a little bit more as well. You mentioned it, Milroe, 14 carries for 14 yards. Alabama had 28 rushes in this game. Only 13 of them were categorized as wins for Oklahoma. They had 13 run defense stops in this game. 6 tackles for loss or no gain. Everyone everyone stepped up to stop this run game because defensive line blew it up, linebackers filled the gaps perfectly, and even the defensive backs were cleaning it up. If Alabama, like Milroe or the running backs, trying to bounce it outside, the defensive backs were right there to tackle them as well. So it was a team effort, the Oklahoma run D. It wasn't just one player dominating out there. The entire defense stepped up to shut down the Alabama run game and also stepped up to shut down the Alabama passing game as well, which is why Alabama only scored 3 points in this one. But Dalton, for you, what was the most impressive part of this Oklahoma victory?
I have to give credit to Jackson Arnold because he got benched earlier in the year, and it sure sounded like everything was just a mess there with him. And Michael Hawkins plays a few games, and Arnold comes back. And you were asking me last night during the game, you're like, do they have any scholarship receivers left? Is anybody left with all these injuries they've dealt with at receiver and on the offensive line? And it's him and a true freshman tailback, Xavier Robinson, back there, and they just go, well, we're just going to run it every play and see what happens. Jackson Arnold, 23 carries for 135 yards.
That's a Milroe style line.
And 93 of them after contact. Yeah.
It was like a Freaky Friday with him and Jalen Moreau.
Yeah, Jackson Arnold became the battering ram. And honestly, and he sure doesn't look like one. What is he, 6'1" and maybe 205, 210? I mean, it's just he just has embraced what they're going to do here for the rest of the season, and they've made a bowl game because of it. And you know what? Credit to him, because honestly, when he got benched, he easily could have just been like, yeah, screw this, I'm out of here. And like so many guys do nowadays, especially quarterbacks now, with once they lose a starting job, that's it, they're gone. And he's stuck it out, and I think that's gonna, if he sticks around next year, that's gonna mean a lot. I think just that level of leadership and being willing to do that. We know he can throw the football. We know he's talented, right? 5-star recruit, all that stuff. But if they get a supporting cast around him, all of a sudden Jackson Arnold's a guy they can rally around again because of a performance like this and being willing to, 23 carries. Jackson Arnold's never a guy I thought would get 23 carries in a game. And these weren't scrambles. These were design carries. These were quarterback powers. This was read option football. I mean, they essentially pretty much optioned their way to a win in this game. And Arnold was a big reason. I just can't give him enough credit for coming back from all the adversity he's seen this year to get a win like this.
No, absolutely. And he was a big part of the, obviously, victory for Oklahoma as well as their defense. And like I said, the fact that the receiving core is so banged up and they still dominated Alabama out there just says a lot to him and his character as well, because I think it's a great point by you is that he could have quit, man. He could have entered the portal, got a head start on what schools he wants to look at, maybe look at Michigan, maybe look at some other schools. And you know what? He stuck it out. He sat behind the true freshman, even though he probably thought he shouldn't have been sitting behind the true freshman, as a lot of people thought he should not have been sitting, and eventually got the job back, and he's done well enough, right, to keep it. And it will be interesting to see if he does enter the portal this offseason. But if he doesn't, and Oklahoma really attacks the portal in terms of getting offensive linemen and receivers, there could be something here, right? I think Jackson Arnold showed why he was a former 5-star recruit in that win over Alabama yesterday. Hey, thanks for watching another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the channel.
Also, subscribe to PFF Plus at subscribe.pff.com for all of the same data and grades that we use in our show, plus fantasy tools, betting tools, and our mock draft simulator.